Okay, so in this video we're going to revise everything that we have learned so far about fractions. So the first thing we're going to do is have a look at how to subtract a fraction. Now when you're adding and subtracting, remember, you can't do it if the denominators are different. You have to turn them all into the lowest common denominator. Okay, so we can see that we've got 12ths and 6, so we're going to turn them all into 12ths. So the first fraction I don't need to do anything with because it's already in 12ths. I just need to turn the second fraction into 12ths. Now because I've gone from 6ths into 12ths, you can see that I have in fact multiplied by 2. So because I've multiplied the denominator by 2, I'm also going to need to multiply the numerator by 2, so this is going to go to 10. Now I can take away, or indeed if this was an add I could add, because I've got 11 12ths, take away 10 12ths. I've got 11 things, take away 10 things. So the answer is I've got one thing, and the thing in this case is 12ths. So job done, and I've got 2 marks on question 3 of the paper. Okay, now in this question we're being asked to add some fractions. So again, have a go and then pause the video, have a go and then press play. You'll see we've got fifths and sevenths. So again, I need to turn them into the lowest common denominator. So now I've got fifths and sevenths. That would be 5 multiplied by 7, which is of course 35. So I'm going to turn the first fraction into 35ths and the second fraction into 35ths, and I'm going to add them. Now, because I've times 5, well, I've times that by 7, haven't I, to make it into 35. So I need to times the numerator by 7, so that would give me 14 35ths. If we get from 7 to 35, I've multiplied this denominator by 5, so I need to multiply 1 by 5 to give me 5. Now I can add them together, and 14 things add 5 things is 19 things, or 19 35ths. Quick check, can I simplify this down? Well, 19 is in fact a prime number, so I'm not going to be able to divide it by anything other than 19 and 1. So my final answer for 2 marks is 19 35ths, and I can't do anything else. Now in this video I'm being asked to multiply by fractions, and if you remember when we're being asked to multiply by fractions, all we need to do is multiply the top and multiply the bottom. So this becomes 2 multiplied by 3 all over 3 multiplied by 4. So 2 times 3 is 6 and 3 times 4 is 12. Now it's worth 2 marks, that's only going to get me 1 mark. It says in the question in its simplest form, so I need to simplify 6 12ths. So I need to find what number goes into both 6 and 12. Well, of course the answer there would be 6. 6's go into 6 once, 6's go into 12 twice. Now if you remember when I taught this in class, I showed you another way of doing it, which would mean you'd never miss this cancelling at the end. So let's just write the question out again and show you what I mean. So we've got 2 thirds and 3 quarters. Now our way of dealing with this is literally to say I'm going to cancel before I do my multiplying. So I'm looking for any common factors in both the numerator and the denominator. So here I've got 3's go into 3 once, 3's go into 3 once. And I'm still not finished, because if I look here I've got an even number and an even number. So 2 will go into 2 once, 2's will go into 4 twice, and now I've got 1 times 1 all over 1 times 2, which gives me 1/2. So 2 different methods of doing the same question. In this question we're being asked to multiply a fraction by an integer. So this is like a question that might say find 2/3 of 60, because of and multiply mean the same thing. Well, the easiest way of going about this one is literally to say, okay, I need to find 2/3 of 60. So I'm just going to write this in a different order because it makes a little bit more sense. And remember that 2/3 just means 2 divided by 3. So I'm timesing by 2 divided by 3. So I'm timesing by 2 and dividing by 3. Now I can change the order. BIDMAS says that timesing and dividing are the same order. So I can either times by 2 first and then divide by 3, or I can divide by 3 and then multiply by 2. It doesn't matter which order I go in. I'm going to do the dividing by 3 first because I can see that 3's go into 60. If they didn't, I would times by 2 first. So 3's go into 60 20 times. So now I can multiply by 2. 2 times 20 gives me an answer of 40. If I'd done it the other way, and I'd done 2 times 60 first, I would get 120, and then I would need to find 1/3 of 120, divide 120 by 3, I would get 40. So the same answer, 2 different methods to get there. Right, this one's a little bit harder because I've got an improper fraction, and the golden rule for dealing with improper fractions is to put them into, it's a mixed number. I need to put it into an improper fraction. So I need to say how many halves would 12 whole ones and 1/2 be? Well, there are 2 halves in every whole, so really all I need to do is multiply here to find out how many halves I've got. So 12 times 2 would give me 24 halves, but I need to add on the 1. So I've got 25 halves divided by 5/8. And if you notice, the question is out of 3 marks for this part of the question, and that would give me 1 method mark. So I need to make sure I've got that written down so I can get that method mark. Now, when you're dividing, basically we can't very easily divide by fractions, but we need to remember the relationship between timesing and dividing. They are inverse operations of each other. So I'll leave my 25 over 2 because I'm dividing into it, so this will always stay put, will always stay the same. And I'm not going to divide by my fraction, I'm going to times by the inverse of this fraction. So instead of dividing by times 5 and dividing by 8, I'm going to times by 8 and divide by 5. So I have flipped my fraction and changed it to a multiply. Now I could go 25 times 8 and 2 times 5, just like we did when we were multiplying. But if you remember my trick for cancelling beforehand, that's going to make life a lot easier. So 5's go into 5 once, and they go into 25 5 times. And now I'm left with 2 even numbers. So 2's go into 2's once, and 2's go into 8 4 times. So now I've got 5 multiplied by 4, which is 20, all over 1 multiplied by 1, which is 1. So my answer is 20 over 1, so I'm going to write 20 on my answer mark, and I've got a method here, a method mark here, and an answer mark here. Fantastic. So that's multiplying, dividing, improper fraction, answer